just once again want to understand, Dr. Yan, this whole WHO CCP link that's here with the WHO. I mean, is it a real negotiation to get into any of the labs, to any of the facilities? Does the CCP really even have to block that hard? Just explain to us the dynamic here, because for a lot of the Western audiences watching this, it looks like the WHO is completely and utterly useless, completely feckless organization, not worth being a part of, not worth investing in. A lot of Americans want refunds for the decades that they've been a part of this already. What is exactly the dynamic between the World Health Organization and the Chinese Communist Party, Dr. Yan?
Okay, simply I can tell you that first, I have been stay under the control of CCP government for over 30 years. So basically, I know it more than most of the Western peoples. And we know how the CCP government can control the voice from the authorities. Once they control the authorities, those people will use their professional positions and use their titles to let people trust them. And once these people listen to CCP, they can deliver whatever message the CCP government wants you to believe. Now it has been shown the big success in China because their propaganda, because of their enforcement, they can also almost control most of the people. I mean, 1.4 billion Chinese people has to listen to them. Now this is just the same thing is applied to overseas, to Western countries. So for this purpose, they need to use the international organization like WHO. I don't need to show more evidence. I think everyone can say from back to December 2019, how their response, from WHO to this COVID-19 outbreak, to January, February, March, all these things. They've been to China even before, right? And they have been to China even last week. What did they say? And what can they say? Everything listened to the Ministry of the Foreign in China, Foreign Affairs in China. So I think the negotiation, it may exist, but the negotiation is to negotiate the benefit between WHO and CCP government. And then later they will sit down to talk about what to tell people, whether this is really from some bad, from even one belt, one road countries, and or maybe this is some poor animals they suddenly caught in Wuhan, or this may be some leakage from some lab in China. Come on, these are all the things you may see in the next steps. So these are their negotiations. I think everyone should start to justify it based on whether WHO has its credibility.
Doctor, I want to just re-illustrate what you said. Essentially, the World Health Organization was involved in the first lie, right? The idea that this was not communicable human to human. They knew about it at a minimum at December 31st from the Free Chinese in Taiwan. So what you are saying essentially is that this current negotiation between the World Health Organization and the Communist Party to investigate the source of this virus is really a negotiation to perfect the second lie. Am I getting that correctly?
They try to perfect, but the lies can never be perfect. I can show you something. Remember, I have mentioned the scientific report I and my team prepared for. Now I can show you some photos. I think WHO expert like Dr. Fauci, like CCP, they can remember this photo because later this whole report will be published to all the people. They can read it. They can see what exactly the SARS-CoV-2 virus is, whether it is come from nature or maybe it's more easy. You can get it from the lab. Just need to have the PLA-owned Zhoushan bat coronavirus. And also based on this, WHO has already covered numerous lies for CCP. And I remember there is a funny thing. So at the end of February, WHO have sent some experts to Wuhan, did some investigation and published a paper. Published some documents that they really think Chinese government did a good thing in anti-COVID-19. But even in that document, they dare not to admit Xi Jinping's RATG13 virus. That document on WHO's website also points out that COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, actually is most close origin from the Zhoushan bat virus.
So you're saying that the closest related virus to this is a virus that is in the catalog of viruses in the possession of the People's Liberation Army that they took from a bat, and this is highly indicative that perhaps this COVID-19 that we are all suffering under, the CCP virus, originated in gain of function or some manipulation inside a PLA-controlled lab, perhaps the one in Wuhan?
Yeah, I think it can be in PLA's any lab, because PLA owns so many labs. It's not has to be specifically even in Wuhan. It also can be in Hong Kong. It also can be in Harbin, in Shanghai, in any labs if they want you to do it, because it's controlled by PLA. And yes, for gain of function research, I think Dr. Fauci know it more than me, how they approve those gain of function research funding to those Chinese labs under CCP's control.
There's also, Doctor, a real belief throughout Western science that oftentimes Western scientists who have a rogue path that they want to follow for scientific research, gain of function being one of those, it's highly restricted here in the United States and much of the West, that they take their money and their ideas to Chinese laboratories where there are lower standards, less stringent standards concerning what kinds of research can be done. Can you talk to a little bit about that, about how Western doctors use the Chinese system to engage in scientific discovery that probably they would not be allowed to do at Harvard?
I think there is one more very well-known cases, which is Dr. He Jiankui in 2018 did some gene editing baby test in China. This kind of experiment is never allowed in overseas countries. And actually in China, it should also be stopped too, but somehow they can do it because it's like the government know it and they pretend they don't know it and let him did that. And also we even can see from the Science journal, they have write the article later to show actually there are potential links between American scientists, even some Nobel laureate, to get involved into Dr. He Jiankui's study. So this is a very typical and well-known example for how the research can do something which is not allowed, but actually you can do it in China. And I can say I'm the one who stayed in that conference at that time and also asked questions from Dr. He Jiankui, so I know the whole story.
You know what's frightening about this, Doctor? There's a historical example of this for the world that they can listen to. The experiments done by the Nazi regime that did not meet any kind of moral or ethical standards. Some of this science that was looked into by, and I use science in quotation marks, in some of the death camps. And this idea, I believe you're referencing the study that came out a few months ago where they were putting actually human genes inside monkey embryos. Is this the one they were going to try and determine whether or not it changed the intelligence of the monkeys? It's kind of frightening in so many levels.
Yes, they want to do all these type of things. And because back to the CCP government, they tell people don't have any religion. You just need to believe in your Chinese Communist Party. So whatever they want to do should be the thing you can do. That's why people lose their religion, lose their faith. And so they don't trust that something you should not do, which will give you the bad consequence. They just do it for some big benefits. And also the government want people to do it to get huge things behind it, like do the genome editing baby to see how the gene editing can be done in human being, like do the gain the function research. You can see how powerful the virus can be. And yet this virus really has done something, right? How it influences global health, how it destroyed the economics, right? It really did something.
So, Doctor, we have only about a minute and a half here before we go to the break. Do you believe that the world needs to hold the Chinese Communist Party responsible for what has happened?
Of course, because I just want to remind our audience one thing. when I was in the virus lab, when we try to do no matter vaccine or viral function testing, when we do the virus replication or something, we never just make one type of virus. We make a lot of string of virus at stock. And then later we will test their function, test their characters, and then keep something we thought maybe not that useful, not optimal at this moment for the later use. So just image this virus is not come from nature. This is lab modified. Whether they would only make the only one specific virus strain, as you know, use the common sense, I'm sure people will understand it. So if you let it go, later even HCQ vaccine cannot work.